So I'll just get this going right now. And I'm sorry, if you don't hear me, I'm sorry. I've been in and out of losing my voice, so I'm sorry about that. So I'm gonna kind of modify the talk a little bit after kind of going through the break. It's still gonna pertain to what is healthy for the body. But we're taking the approach this time of doing more of a psychological approach to what is healthy with the body. Because what we see and what others perceive are two different things. You know, we're always hardest on ourselves. Everybody is, male and female, are hardest on themselves about what they view themselves as. And the point I want to make is what is healthy for each individual is going to be different. So, you know, regardless of your age, gender, everything else, what's healthy for you is kind of what we're focusing on at this point. And I tried to get the clicker to work, but to no avail. And when Pete can't get it to work, then we've got an issue, I think. So he tried. All right, so what I wanted to kind of talk about is more starting off with the body type. So what we're talking about is, you know, it's the theoretical somatotypes. The reason why we say it's a theoretical, because it was started out in 1940s from William Sheldon, who was an American psychologist. And this theory has since been kind of debunked in some respects. Reason being, he used this to create a theory of constitutional psychology. What that meant was we, as individuals, were formed via one of three different aspects: the endoderm, mesoderm, and ectoderm. All right, so when we talk about the body types, he theorized three different body types to categorize people. What this did was, you know, based upon where you fit in these different categories is what you should be following. Fine and dandy. However, what it does not take into account is each individual's metabolic rate, each individual's genetic component, what you're predisposed to, as well as the environment you're in and what you do. So those things, it does not take into account of any of those factors, plus several other factors that are around. So he used, you know, when it says here, the endoderm is from the digestive tract. The mesoderm is more the muscle, the soft tissue, the heart, stuff like that. Ectoderm is the skin and the nervous system within the body. All right, so his theory was that when we were developing in the fetal stages, stuff like that, is we fell in one of these three categories. However, we need all of these. All right, we don't have just one that we meet. We meet all three, because that's what makes us a whole human being. All right, you have to have a digestive tract. You need to have the muscle, the heart, the blood vessels, the skin, the nervous system for us to function properly. So reason why I'm starting off with this part now is when you think about the images of body types, ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph, all right, this is what we always see, everyone always saw growing up, everyone was categorized in this, all right, especially early on, you fit this category, you fit this category, you fit this category. So ectomorph is usually a fairly slender body type. Now, one of the key components of this one, usually we see people who fall into the quote-unquote ectomorph category have a smaller bone structure. All right, they have a smaller skeletal frame. The other thing that we're going to see with this group is they have a higher metabolism in general. Just from the standpoint, usually lean mass in some respects, other respects, are they forcing themselves to look this way? Because that's what society deems beautiful, rather than what is healthy. So this is, you see where I'm going at with why, in this respect, this can be a detriment to what's going on for each individual. Because as I look in this room right now, everybody is a unique individual. I don't see a single person that fits exactly into one of these categories. Not a single person. okay? So the mesomorph, in theory, is a type of person who can develop muscle more, usually more the athletic builds. The endomorph usually has a little higher fat content, according to William Sheldon. I see people that have different bone structures. That's going to be completely different than muscle, skin, lean body mass. All right, so each person's going to be different based upon what their background is. So now, what I'm getting at now is, let's take away from that part and look at constitutional psychology has been discredited in our field, especially in the realm of exercise psychology, exercise science, and in some aspects, certain aspects of psychology as well. All right, thought of being one body type may cause more harm than good. Reason why I say that, we see, especially in women, developing eating disorders early on because they're trying to fit a certain type. And men, they develop disordered eating, disordered habits. They have a whole different aspect as well. All right, so some men may think that they're skinny when they're really a little bit more muscular and they want to be even more muscular. All right, so seeing that and seeing those three types may not be the best way of categorizing people. Now, what we look at instead is, what is the anthropometric measurements? All right, meaning measurements around the torso, circumference measurements, waist, hips, neck, arms, legs. And then we take it a step further and go forth and look at skin fold measurements. All right, so that's going to tell you more about how healthy an individual is by breaking down what their measurements are. So I'm not exactly a huge fan of the waist to hip ratio either, because again, it falls in a category where back in the 90s, there was a phase in which women were trying to obtain a certain size waist. And so they would wear a band around their waist, and if they got too big for that band, they knew they had to lose weight. So it looked like a necklace type thing, but a piece of jewelry that they wore around their waist. All right, so and I know when I was in high school, that was common to see a lot of women doing that. Now, when you're athletic, you don't have time for all of that stuff because you're trying to find other things to do. But number of factors that influence, as I stated, nutritional habits of an individual, genetics. What is your background? We're all, when we're here, we're kind of in this melting pot. We have a different variety of cultures involved. So each person's going to have a little different thing to add, okay? Cultural factors, age, gender. As we age, especially for women, our bone density can decrease a bit. That's going to affect where you stand. That affects your stature as well. All right, we tend to shrink a little bit. The other thing too is our muscle mass begins to decrease as the hormone levels decrease for men and women, which is why it's also important to maintain an active lifestyle and to maintain that health for each individual. All right, so now if we look at body image and exercise, body image is subjective. I'm just going to leave it at that part. You can read the rest of it. It's subjective. Each person's going to think of themselves differently. All right, so where you view yourself is different than what I may see you as. All right, so that's why it's a subjective aspect. It can be either positive or negative depending upon where you're at. All right, so exercise motivation and behavior affects that perception of how you feel and physical appearance. So as you were going through and doing this, some people will exercise more and then go on the opposite end of the spectrum, thinking that they're getting healthier and healthier. When, if they come back to center, they're healthy. But if they started off center, unhealthy, start incorporating exercise, eating right, become healthy, and think, okay, if I'm doing this now, how about if I do more? What's that going to do? Well, in some respects, it develops into an unhealthy behavior because now what they're doing is a codependence. So then they become dependent upon exercise to feel better. All right, so when you become dependent upon something, that's not always a good thing either. So then that's where you have to kind of have this balance of where is this healthy line that I need to stay at? And each person is going to be different for that. Okay, so just because like a BMI chart that was developed in 1880, yes, 1880, says I am overweight. However, what that doesn't take into account is what is my body mass index. All right, so that's what BMI is, a body mass index, but what it doesn't take into account, is the body fat percentage. Two different things. So as Joel talks about in body composition talks, when you're looking at the body mass index of someone and you're looking at body image and exercise in that regard, same regard, what you're going to see is someone that's dependent upon stepping up on a scale all the time because they're told they're overweight. Insurance companies tell you that. Doctors say that. What they don't understand, what is that doing to your psychology? You go in thinking you're doing well, all your other variables are doing great. They tell you you need to lose weight. How? Why? What is healthy? Based upon a chart that was developed in 1880, and it has not changed since then, has not taken into account of all these different variables here in the US alone. All right, with the diversity that we have, with people from different cultures, and then the offspring, all different. All right, so all things are not accounted for in that. So it does not take into account what is your skeletal structure? What is your normal body frame supposed to be? None of that is taken into account when they're looking at some of this. So they just look at this, okay, yeah, you're overweight. Now, what I see when we do this, how can we get somebody to be happy by getting them healthier? Again, staying within that realm, what is healthy for each individual? Not what is healthy according to this chart. So someone that's 5'7", say they weigh 145 pounds, they can still be healthy if they have maintained, especially for women, 18 to 25% body fat. Say they're at 23% body fat, they're still healthy. Okay? So just because a BMI says one thing, I'd rather look at what does the body fat percentage say, and then go through and look at the body image from there. Because then you take that approach, you're helping an individual be healthier. And it's not as subjective in that respect. So one of the points that, body image statistics, okay? 80% of women say that the women on television and in movies, fashion magazines, and advertising makes them feel insecure. That means if there's 10 women in here, 8 of you are going to say all of that makes you feel insecure. 42% of girls, 1st through 3rd grades, wants to be thinner. Why is that? What we see in social media, what we see in magazines, and what is perceived. 81% of 10-year-old girls are afraid of being fat. The average height of the American woman is 5'4" and weighs 140 pounds. While the average American model is 5'11" and weighs 117 pounds. Most fashion models are thinner than 98% of the American population of women. Something's wrong with that picture. All right, more than half of teenage girls are or think they should be on a diet. They want to lose some or all of the 40 pounds that females naturally will gain between the ages of 8 and 14, because that's usually when they hit puberty. And their body composition begins to change as they hit puberty. About 3% of these teens go too far, becoming anorexic or bulimic. Not exactly a pleasant statistic there when it comes to women in general.
How about boys? Is it among teenage boys not as much?
Not as much. Not as much. You see it in some respects for some boys, but it's not quite as high as it is for women. Part of it is culture, society. There's different thought processes involved when it comes to males and females. Where should a female be? Where should a male be in that regards? What is a healthy image for both though? What is healthy all the way around to develop into a healthy body and mind for both? Not exactly a pleasant statistics there. Okay, now what I want to think about is every size is healthy. We all have to appreciate what our bodies do for us on a regular basis. All right, we're moving around, we're working, we're upright on our own feet when we're able to. We're doing things that some people don't do. I know it's important to understand you have an ideal body weight, and it's at like a set point weight, and it's different for each person. And usually you find that weight and you try to lose from that, your body wants to go back to it. You try and gain, your body wants to come back down to it. There's a set point. Say the doctor tells you, okay, you know, you need to be down to like 130 pounds. Your body is healthy, you're not sick, you're free of illness at 140 pounds. You're at 130, those 10 pounds can make a huge difference, and you're constantly sick because your immune system is compromised. You've put too much stress on your own body. So finding what is healthy for your own body, okay? And allows you to, like I said, healthy and function properly is different. Try and avoid comparing yourself to somebody else. You are not this person, not this person. We're great at trying to compare what someone else does and how can we be that way. It doesn't work. It does not work at all. So what you need to do then, or what we should all do, is figure out what are our strengths and how can we keep moving forward with that. What is our weakness and how can we improve that weakness for us? So it's one of those things where each person is going to be unique in this respect. But, you know, just because this person over here is great at strength training, this person over here is an excellent endurance athlete. They're both healthy individuals. They're going to do what makes them happy and is healthy. So what makes each individual healthy is figuring out what do you benefit at? Where are your strengths? What do you enjoy? What do you want to do? Then trying to figure out how can we make that happen? How can we keep improving upon that? You know, I get some people coming in and say, okay, I want to be, you know, say they come in, they're about 5'5", and they say they want to be down to, you know, they come in weighing about 180, and they want to come down to about 160. That's fine. It's not going to take a month. It's not going to take 2 months. I'd say give it almost a year to do it properly, and then see where you're at certain checkpoints. But let's make it healthy so that way it's not a shock to your system. Does that make sense there? Is trying to figure out what benefits you versus what is a benefit for somebody else. So each person is going to be unique in that respect. Accept who you are and make positive changes to help your body be healthy. I think that is the hardest thing for people in general to do, is accepting who you are. We're always trying to be over here, up here, over there, comparing ourselves to all of this. But that's not us. We're all unique, and we need to realize what we do is what makes us function. Understand your signals of hunger are different from others. Trust your instincts and eat a healthy snack. All right, because I know for myself, I start to feel my blood sugar level drop. I got to have something at that moment. All right, otherwise it looks like that, you know, when you see the Snickers commercial with Betty White. Yeah, that's not a fun thing. All right, so then adopting healthy lifestyle habits. And then figuring out what is healthy for each individual. Do you enjoy being outside? Find activities that are outside. Do you enjoy strength training? Incorporate that. Do you enjoy walking? Absolutely. Incorporate that.
Whoa. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
That about wraps that up.
All right, so we are closed tomorrow. All right, that works. I use the laptop upstairs. Yep. And it's going off on your phones too. All right, so embrace size diversity. We're all humans. We all come in unique, different sizes, variety, shapes. Understand what is healthy for you as an individual. All right, so each person is going to be different in that respect. Just because, you know, what they say in general norms is one thing. I'm going to pick on you for a moment, Habakkuk, because of your military background and uniform. When you were in uniform, everybody had to be a certain, matching a certain criteria, correct? That didn't fit everybody, did it? Some people struggled. So, and this is my point exactly. No matter what certain individuals do, they're going to struggle to maintain a certain level. Some people who are more muscle, it's hard for them to slim down to fit a certain category. And they were considered to be overweight in some respects, even though we all know they're not being overweight at all. It's just they're not going to fit this certain criteria. And just like with you in law enforcement, certain things you have to meet. So there's some reasons why you do have to have that uniform aspect. Yes, absolutely. However, with each person being an individual, how can that person still be healthy and function at their high levels for their jobs that they did? Does that make sense there? So again, same thing. And that's why 2 prime examples here. Sorry. It just had to work out that way. But, you know, and it's just one of those things where, and then as we evolve, our bodies change a little bit as well. You know, especially with women, you have kids, your body changes there. Men, they become a father, your body changes there because you're now running after a little one all the time, just like the moms are. So, you know, you get all these things that go on. All right, so it's just appreciating what makes you you and what is healthy for you. All right, how can we be healthy and relatively illness-free? All right, so now, went through all of that, how can we achieve a healthy body and mind? Treat your body with respect. Give it enough rest. All right, each person's different as far as what rest they need. On average, as we age, some people need less, some people need more, depending upon what their activity levels are. Anywhere between usually 5 to 9 hours for most people, depending upon what you're doing on a regular basis. Fuel yourself with a variety of foods. Exercise regularly. Resist the urge to judge yourself and others based on weight, shape, or size. I think that is the biggest takeaway right there, because it's one of the things I hear all the time is, okay, this person's really fat, what are they doing? Or this person's doing this, or this person's doing this. Or having an individual coming in, having one person that was using a bike, that it took everything in the world for this particular person to come in and ride the bike because of a disability and a disorder they have. And then having a member come in, well, that's not exercising, is it? Me being quick to say something, well, actually, it is exercise. If you knew what's going on with the individual, you would know that person is doing what they can do. Now, why don't you go back and practice what you do and leave the exercise component to Joel and I? You can see that. So anybody that, and it was a polite way of telling this person who's always just kind of pushing a boundary with people. And he just looks at me, he's like, I guess I didn't think about what's going on. That's the thing, is that we need to be a little bit more understanding of others. We have some people that come in that have disabilities. They're still doing something. They're moving. Some of you guys have seen them in the halls. It's amazing seeing an individual overcome a disability and move. It's actually inspiring to see that. So then when we're all getting down on ourselves, wait, why are we getting down on ourselves? We have nothing to be down on ourselves about. We can do stuff. We have every reason to be happy with what we have. So steps to a body positive attitude. I think if anything, this is the biggest takeaway right here. Appreciate what your body does for you. Keep a top 10 list of things you like about yourself. That's going to change on a regular basis. But honestly, keep something that you appreciate about yourself. It sounds kind of self-centered in some respects, but you find things that you are happy about yourself, you find a way to respect that, and then you see that in other people too, of what they offer. Remind yourself that true beauty is not just skin deep. Look at yourself as a whole person, not just parts. Surround yourself with positive people. Do something nice for yourself and use the time and energy that you might have spent worrying about food, calories, and your weight to do something to help others. We're always saying we need to do something for this or that. Do we really? We are always worried about everything else. Always worried about what someone else is going to think. Does it matter? In the long run, no. Because you are going to be who you are. That's really what it comes down to, is in figuring out what makes you healthy for who you are. I know it's a little different than some of the past talks I've done of more exercise-based, but like I said, I wanted to get more into that psychology component of it and understanding that exercise is beneficial, absolutely. Nutrition is beneficial, absolutely. But that's only going to go so far if you're not getting to the deep, deep aspect. Which is, why are you doing this? What's motivating you? What's keeping you going? Now, when you get to that part, figuring out, okay, I like this, I like this, I like this. Then let's keep going. Figuring out what makes everything positive for people. All right, any questions so far?
How do you know what your healthy size is?
That's a good question. So really the best way of trying to figure that one out is when we go through like the evaluation that we've done and we get your height, weight, skin fold measurements, and it's all based upon age, gender, height, weight, everything, we can kind of determine where you should and shouldn't be. Does that make sense there? So really honestly, it's getting a multiple series of measurements. The other thing too is figuring out what is your resting metabolic rate and kind of going from there and figuring out what your metabolism requires. And that's going to help get to your what is healthy for an individual. But that takes a series of steps.
Right.
Any other questions? So this is just tips for media self-care. So we're always surrounded by media, social media, people that use Snapchat, all those filters that's on all of that stuff, Instagram, everything. Changes everything. Choose and use the media mindfully. Limit screen time, social networking. Kind of a hard thing to do in this day and age, I get it. Okay, test the message for body positivity. So figuring out what is the body positive message for yourself. And use that as a mantra for yourself. Talk back to media about body image. I do this all the time. That's the reason why I tell Joel, I'm like, we don't need this magazine because look, it's just all airbrushed. Everything's airbrushed in it. Nothing is real. It's giving women a false perception. Advocate for body positive talk. So again, be advocate for yourself, especially when you go into doctor's offices. What is healthy for you? I always tell a lot of people, take one of these sheets that we do when we go through and get your skin fold measurements, your body composition analysis report. Take that in with the doctor and show them what we do. Because with Joel and I, there's about 3% room of accuracy or room of error in there. So 97% accurate. Most doctors accept that. Even you had it go as far as some of the military needing something like that, because some of their soldiers were over. And if we did these measurements, they actually fell within. So that way they were still able to go for their promotion for different ranks, stuff like that. All right, any questions on this? And I did include the references where I got some of this information from. Another person that I didn't put on here, I should have, is one of our adjunct faculty members, Shannon Breweris. Her background is exercise psychology. So she's one that I constantly was bouncing information off of. And I would always say, okay, what about this, or what about this? She's like, actually, you know what, this is a huge topic we do need to get into. So I figured this is the first step for me to get into this for everybody. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed it. I know it was a lot of information. I know it was kind of a deep information, but the takeaway is, what is healthy for you? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.